Good evening, everyone. The hour being 7:03 p.m. on Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. I'd like to call to order City of Laconia City Council meeting. Before we go any further, though, I think we should start with a salute to the flag, and I would ask Councilor Bogert to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're joined this evening by Katie Gargano, our city clerk, city tax collector. I'd ask her to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Here.
Counselor Susie,
Here.
Counselor Lippman,
Present.
Counselor Haynes,
Here.
Counselor Bogert,
Here.
Counselor Felch.
Here.
Mayor Hosmer.
Present. We have a quorum, which is terrific. Thank you. We're also joined this evening by City Manager Kirk Biotti, as well as Finance Director Glenn Smith at council table. Agenda item 7, acceptance of minutes from previous meetings. Item 7A, which is City Council regular meeting minutes of September 25th, 2023. And they were distributed to the members of the City Council on October 4th, 2023, with no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk. The minutes will be accepted as distributed. There are no consent and action items. Item number 9, which is citizen comments for matters not on the agenda. If there's a citizen here this evening who would like to speak to a matter not on tonight's agenda, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing that no one has stepped forward, we'll move right along to agenda item number 13A under public hearings. Public hearing for ordinance 2023-150-2 and 150-3 fireworks. Notice of this public hearing is made available in the September 28th, 2023 edition of the Laconia Daily Sun and posted at the Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. Action on this item may be taken up under unfinished business this evening. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:05 p.m. Anyone who'd like to speak to this matter, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing no one coming forward to speak, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:05 p.m. There are no presentations. Go down to item number 15, which is the mayor's report. I want to thank Councilor Haynes for filling in for me the last meeting. I appreciate it. Also want to let you know how good it was to see all the city councilors, our police department, our school department, and numbers of community citizens attend the vigil on, excuse me, Sunday at O-Pee-Chee Park. It's, I think I've said enough about it and to those that have asked and to the press and certainly in the letter to the community, which all of you signed on to. This is a very powerful experience to stand there with a great cross-section of our community that spoke out in unison against this type of behavior in our city. Look forward to continued conversations to make sure that our populace is well educated about anti-Semitism, about hate crimes, look forward to maybe bringing some proposals to the City Council in the coming weeks or so about maybe some affirmative steps we can take as a council and as a city to continue to be aware of this and address it accordingly. I'd like to move on to item number 16, which is council comments. Councilor Cheney.
Mayor Hosmer and my fellow city councilors and folks joining us here tonight, I ask for your indulgence for what may be a little more than a few minutes so that I can address a recent letter to the editor in the Laconia Daily Sun, and more importantly, a lengthy letter addressed to this body by the Director of Development and Public Relations for Lakes Region Mental Health Center, asking that I be removed as the council's representative to the planning board and implying that without education about discrimination and internal bias, I should be removed from the council. Let me apologize in advance if this seems like a meandering discourse. The 2 3/4 page letter from the director causes me to try to respond to several issues. First, let me address the director's first paragraph, where in about 250 words she outlines her 25 years of residency and service to the community. She tells us of her efforts towards quote-unquote civic duty, including being the supervisor of the checklist in her ward, and over 20 years leading a federally funded program for at-risk youth. She discusses, with some justifiable pride, her efforts in grant writing that brought millions of dollars to Laconia, and allows her to be an advocate for, quote, people that experience disparity in care and barriers in access. And she concludes, still in quotes, and I think you can see from my examples that I don't just talk about it, end quote. Well, may I attempt to provide examples that I too don't just talk about it. My examples of service include service to my country, my state, and my city. I've lived in Laconia for over 45 years. Spent close to 5 years in the United States Marine Corps, serving all the citizens of my country. I spent 25 years in law enforcement, including 14 years as chief of police in our city, serving all our citizens. After retiring from law enforcement, I spent the next 24 years as the executive director of the Division of Emergency Communications for the state of New Hampshire, initially building and then managing the statewide 911 system. In the middle of my 24 years at Emergency Communications, I was asked by the then governor to fill in as the interim director of emergency management and as his Homeland Security advisor, which turned out to be a long interim of 5 years, while all still directing emergency communications. I did that for all citizens of our state. May I add that while serving as the Homeland Security advisor to the governor, I was investigated for and ultimately granted a top-secret clearance by the federal government. That investigation included interviews with neighbors, co-workers, and others to determine, among other things, if I displayed any discriminatory or internal bias. I might add, by the way, that all these positions required frequent nights, weekends, and holidays. While serving in those public safety positions, I also spent several years on the Laconia Mental Health Board, sitting next to Dave Stamp's mother, followed by 10 years on the Lakes Region General Hospital Board of Trustees, with my last year as chairman of the board. Finally, I spent the last 6 years attending city council and council committee meetings religiously. All of the above is to suggest that I take umbrage at any suggestion that somehow my failure to agree with her idea of what is right means I'm biased or discriminatory and therefore not qualified to perform my civic duty. Let me address some other issues the director raised. Perhaps the one that troubles me the most is her objection to my quote-unquote most shocking comment. She expressed concern because in response to Mr. Delavecchia suggesting that if someone could build a 3-unit apartment house on that property with 12 people on the site and have sufficient parking, it would be a good piece. She quotes me as responding, quote, and, after saying he'd have these folks live there, and they wouldn't all be mental health folks who need help, and they would be from families and folks that fit in the neighborhood, end quote. She sees that as blatantly discriminatory on my part, but she was able to forgive Mr. Delavecchia describing these 3 families as regular people. She forgot to quote him fully and didn't see this as discriminatory, I presume because he agrees with her position on this housing project. If a citizen wants to know the whole truth, please review the video of our meeting and you will see my repeated statements of support for the concept. I recognize the need. I just question the density and the less than 24-hour or around-the-clock supervision. The director suggests that I don't represent all the people of Laconia. I agree. But I would also suggest she doesn't represent all the people of Laconia. In point of fact, no one on the city council, the city planning board, or any other board or commission represents all people in the city. The whole purpose of representative government is to have varying views to hopefully arrive at a compromise that most, if not all, can live with. The director suggests that I be removed from the planning board immediately, and if I am to remain on the city council, that I be given education about discrimination and internal bias. I offer she should consider her own internal bias and perhaps consider doing something other than development and public relations, if she's unwilling to tell the whole story, and admit I repeatedly said I support the concept of the project even on Bay Street, if the proponents were willing to compromise. In closing, I had no more intention of discriminating against nor possessing an internal bias about the intended residents of this facility than did Mr. Dellavecchia when he referred to 3 families of regular people living in the 3-unit he proposed. May I close by thanking everyone who has sat through my discourse. I am not discriminatory or internally biased. I am a city councilor who seeks compromise. I am a city councilor who hears citizens' concerns. And I am a city councilor who seeks alternatives while still hoping to support the mission. I can be criticized for one of my turns of a phrase, but I will not be criticized for intending to find a reasonable compromise. I thank you for your time, Mr. Mayor, and the ability to say my piece.
Counselor Cheney, you indeed are. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Any other council comments? Counselor Bogart.
Mr. Mayor and fellow councilors, with the events that have taken place during this last week, I must say that I am greatly disappointed in the position that Lakes Region Mental Health Center and their Director of Development and Public Relations has taken by using a bullying tactic and trying to smear the character of a board member and a city councilor. This kind of tactic does not show well for the organization by exemplifying the contempt they have for the taxpaying citizens of Laconia just because they disagree with them. I would like to believe that overall the organization does not believe in this philosophy and therefore should review and recalibrate their public relations with the city. And if this is truly how they like to operate, then the city should review its relationship with Lakes Region Mental Health Center. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just add, I didn't put him up to that.
No, he didn't. I've
Well,
done this on my own because for 20 years I've served on boards, and to have board members' character attacked by organizations such as this makes it extremely difficult for board members to feel comfortable to sit and help make decisions for the city and how the direction of the city is going to be. If every time they make a decision that doesn't live up to someone else's expectation, then they criticize them and try to attack their character. That is not a correct way for organizations like this with mental health. They should not even be close to doing something like this. If they'd like to sit down and negotiate stuff on the side with the boards are with the council, then come do it. But you don't do this in the newspaper and in writing incendiary-type emails that will cause more people not to want to join these boards.
Mr. Mayor.
Counselor Susie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that I've worked with and known Councilor Cheney for many, many years when he was chief of police, and I was within that organization. I've never seen a gentleman more, well, let's put it this way, I've never seen any discrimination, bias in those situations at all. In all of those years, nothing, okay? I mean, the memo that he wrote makes me seem like he's quite a statesman. And I want to say to him, those years that he spent with Sister So-and-so learning English has really paid off, because he's done a great job. At the same time, I pride myself in being a member of this council because we take special purpose to be nonpartisan in any way. We don't attack each other. We disagree with each other. We work on compromises, and we have our open discussions about that, but not the way that it was prone. I don't think that if you disagree with somebody, you should be labeled in some way because you disagree. As Councilor Cheney said, disagreement and compromise is what moves this whole country forward. Thank you.
Any other council comments? Counselor Haynes.
Thank you, Mayor. I know that this is the issue, and what we know that has divided and people have taken sides. I think that we know in the past that things have been taken out of context, that people have said things that they don't mean to say, and were taken in the wrong way. I have had the privilege of working with Councilor Cheney, and I don't think that was in any way he meant to be discriminatory or say anything out of line. This project has divided a community, has divided a neighborhood, and I'm just hoping that we can put this to rest, because the city needs to move on. There are merits on both sides, but I don't think that, this needs to go any further. It's detrimental to the community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor Haynes. Any other council comments? Seeing none, I'd like to move on to committee reports.
I did mention, thank you, Mayor, I did mention that LRPA is
Yes.
their home in Water Street, and their accommodations are great, and they're very thankful, and the board met for the first time there, so everything is moving in the right direction.
Thank you, Counselor Haynes. Any other, yes, Counselor Littman.
I think the Finance Committee needs to work with the management to look at the different financings that have been passed by the council. I'm not sure we have a date on the books, or if we do, I don't remember the date. So if we don't have one, I'd like to get one so that we can move that forward.
Yeah, we'll get that scheduled. We just got some of the RFPs back that we were looking at, so we actually have the package pretty much ready for you now.
So we want to meet at 6:15 at an upcoming council meeting, Finance Committee.
Which is on the
23rd.
23rd. That's fine.
Is that enough time for you to prepare?
Absolutely. Yep, 6:15 on the 23rd, Finance Committee.
Thank you. Do we have to, I forget whether we're taking, when we establish one of these, do we need a vote, or is it fine to?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Nope. Committee reports, yes, go right ahead.
Mr. Mayor, one more committee of government operations and ordinances. We We will be meeting again this coming Friday at 4 PM.
I saw that in my calendar. Thinking, who schedules meetings at 4 PM on a Friday afternoon?
Yeah, thank you.
Is this gonna be at Defiant Records or something, or Hector's? Where are we?
Short and sweet.
Okay, my goodness.
How we get rid of the manager?
When I see when I see the note that that Nancy put out, she has it at 2 PM. I can change it to 2 PM, not a problem this week, so if that would make it better for you.
Didn't read the time on, let me check tomorrow to what she posted
know.
as a
Okay.
public meeting, we'll have to go with that. So I will,
Send us all a note.
I will
what-
do that, yep.
What the ultimate decision is.
Yep.
Any other, committee reports or liaison reports? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 19, which is citizens' request to comment on current agenda items. So if you're here in regards to a current agenda item and you would like to speak, now would be the appropriate time. Good evening, Representative St. Clair. Moving on to agenda item number 20 right now, which is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Included in your packet tonight is the financial and operational trends report for October. Not a whole lot of changes in this month. I'll just run through it real quickly for you. We'll see the building permits are in line with where they were 2 years ago. Not quite what we had last year, but still are moving in a good direction. Around halfway through our time frame with that. Fire calls are on track with AR. Public assistance data, again, had a high month. As a reminder, we did increase the amount of money that we have in city relief that we budgeted this year, and we do have some reserve account for that as needed. Most of these that you're seeing in the increase is really related to a small number of people. We're helping a lot of people, but the high dollar figure is related to just a couple of those people that we're assisting, and we're actually been able to take some of these off the cost over the last month or so. So barring any changes, we may see this coming down next month.
I'm sorry to interrupt, can you characterize those spikes, that high dollar amount? What did it go towards?
We're putting people up in housing is really where it comes down to, whether it be in a hotel, generally where we put people. We have been able to get at least one or two of them out and back into stable housing, so that will be less money that we're paying for that.
Thank you.
Police department, you notice that the police department monthly activities has changed a little bit in the layout. This was done in response to the question on traffic stops. And what Chief Canfield did, and I would enjoy your feedback, is he also put in a 10-year average. When we brought the question forward about motor vehicle stops, he says it's just even year to year based on that particular month, there's so many ebbs and flows in why they were able to stop more vehicles with what's going on at the time. So he did a 10-year study as well for all of these data points, and looking at, as the example that tends to come up, is the motor vehicle stops. If you look at where we were, this goes through 22, so that they did a complete calendar year. Versus the 10-year average, we are up a little bit in that area. So when I asked him the question, he agreed with what you were questioning, but thought that if we looked at a bigger data point, we may be able to get better information. Rest of the page, the property tax collection, motor vehicle registration is all what we would expect it to be at this time. The next page with the overtime. We are seeing a little bit of a decrease in where we were a year from this point last year to this point this year. And again, a lot of that comes down to staffing. The better staffing, the less overtime that is charged. So that is that for those departments. And of course, we haven't started into our winter season yet, so DPW isn't seeing as much of that yet. Next page are impact fees. I'll go down to impact fees. You'll notice that on the transfer out year to date, there's no dollar figure listed there. As you recall, you have been approving some of this use of impact fees. It just hasn't been invoiced in yet. So we are pushing that as a funding source when different agencies or different departments come forward. We just don't have the actual money showing is out yet because it hasn't been spent. It's been approved. So those will, those will be fluctuating. Expendable trust balances, they go up, but they're relatively unchanged month to month, minus what we're adding to it. Our code statistics on the next page, you'll see that although permits are down, some of our building and code inspections are up. And we didn't have a corresponding number to September 22, but we did show what in September, there was 17 property maintenance actions. This comes, again, this comes from some of what you've directed us to want to push more on. One is being proactive and actually being out there, finding the issues and addressing them. But also, we've talked about this for a while now, is to make the process easier and less cumbersome for the people in that department to actually do their job and go out and take care of these issues. And I think now that that whole process is working well, you're going to start to see those increase and in being proactive again. General fund and revenue expenditures are where we'd expect at this time. I'm not going to just go over the EMS billing right now. We have a couple of different things that we're looking at right now. With change in staffing at the fire department, Chief Joubert is meeting tomorrow with the billing company to not only review the numbers that we put out so we have our most accurate information, but we're also looking at what the new Medicaid numbers are, how that billing is affecting us, because we've talked about that in recent past because we know we're going to be getting more revenue from our Medicaid patients. So he's working on all that. So expect next month to have a little bit more of a refined, updated information on this with some potentially new information as well.
Thank you. Any questions for the city manager? Counselor Haynes?
Not a question. Kurt, I'd like to thank you. The PA system on Sunday worked great,
Good, thank you.
and I'm glad we purchased it.
There we go.
The other thing is, and I'm glad that the planning board chairman is here, can we ask the members on the different committees to please speak into the microphones? You cannot, the other night I got home and tried to listen to the planning board. Everybody's talking over here. You can't hear a word. And I'm not hard of
I will
hearing.
send some information out to our department heads that deal with the
Speak.
boards as reminders to do that.
I would put a note right on the microphones here, like, I have a note here that's been here
I'm
since
gonna
I landed,
I can glue it right here.
right, telling me what to do. There should be,
Good,
No,
that's-
seriously.
No, I don't disagree.
And this is the second time, and it's very aggravating.
Counselor Bogart?
Thank you. Back on page 4, expendable trust balances, is that an interest-bearing account?
Yes. I'll let him answer that, yeah.
And how do they divvy up the interest across these different little funds? Or is it one big interest number? Or how is,
Yeah.
because I guess my main question is all these numbers added together and put into one trust fund, and we control the different balances?
No, Counselor, those are all separate accounts managed by the trustees of trust funds. So each one of those is a separate account with the public deposit insurance pool.
Okay, thank
I
you.
just want to ask a clarification. Make sure you're talking about the same thing. 'Cause you're talking about, I believe, what's on page 21. The non-capital reserve account is within the city accounting system, not in a separate, managed by the trustees of the trust funds, right?
The funds themselves are
Bottom
are
of
in a
page,
PIDIP account managed by the trustees. What happens is that throughout the course of the year, as the council approves projects and expenditures from the non-capital reserve, we account for it in the city accounting system. Then at year end, request a reimbursement from the trustees into the city books so it all balances out.
I think there's a distinction here between what is our operating expendable trusts and what is the trusts that are held for like, what's the fund called? The Putnam Fund, as an example.
Or
Different
the
people.
cemetery
The
funds.
cemetery funds, those are different, those are trustees. There's a trustee in our structure, there's a trustee that oversees our investments, which is part of.
Yeah, you're right, Counsel, and we use the term loosely. These are capital reserve funds managed by the trustees, but they're not trust funds per se. They're capital reserves
They're under,
established by this body.
right, and they could be unreserved if the body felt they're not restricted funds, if you will. They were basically to provide a leveling contingency if, for example, health insurance spike, snowplow season is extraordinarily large, you know, that way we don't have spikes that we have to deal with the tax cap, which is difficult to deal with.
Thank you.
And, Mr. Smith, you indicated all of this money is held by PDIP?
It is as of now, and that is the trustees who manage the funds take that responsibility very seriously. And right now, that is the greatest return on the investment is with PETA. But that's something they check in with at each of their quarterly meetings and make adjustments accordingly.
Just, you know, it's, okay. Yeah, a follow-up discussion about that. Interesting, thank you. Counselor Cheney.
I just want to bring a subject that would get us out of trust funds, stuff that I don't understand anymore. I apologize. I did want to ask the manager where we stand. I've had a citizen on Jane Street who's under the impression that his street will not be plowed or garbage collected there at some point in the near future.
No, that's,
That's what I told him, but I said I would bring it up tonight. But the other part of that question is, where are we at with these, you know, what's the status? We were talking about taking over some of those streets off of,
so why don't we put together a package for the next agenda meeting? We can
That'd be
put it
great.
on there
That'd-
for where we stand with those streets. And if you need me to reach out to the,
Yep, okay.
please don't
Yep.
hesitate.
Hey, he produced a letter from a previous Public Works Director that suggested that the city would take over the road. I understand he wasn't, probably wasn't able to obligate the city, but it certainly shows that the people on the street have worked towards getting their street maintained and, or continue to be maintained. So I would like a
Yep,
report.
we can do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else for the city manager? Thank you, Kirk. Moving on to item number 21, which under new business, which is item 21A, temporary traffic order 2023-16 New Hampshire Pumpkin Festival. The 2023 New Hampshire Pumpkin Festival is scheduled for October 27th and 28th, 2023. Temporary traffic order 2023-16 is attached to our packets this evening for review and approval. Kirk, would you be so kind as to sort of walk through this so we can know what to anticipate over the course of that weekend?
Sure, so the main part of the Pumpkin Festival is gonna be over on this side of the Beacon Streets. We'll call it Thursday night, but early Friday morning. The original intent was going to be to close Beacon Street all the way, including both parking lots, the smaller parking lot out here and the larger parking lot, Canal and Hanover, in the parking garage. We have since worked on an agreement or a compromise that will leave Beacon Street open to local traffic, so we can leave the smaller parking lot open out here. I call it the small parking lot, so the Buzio Mill parking lot this side, so we can still continue to do, City Hall business, 8:30 opening to noon. The bigger parking lot is being taken up by the, majority or a large piece of the event, so that is going to be booked all day. Hanover Street will remain available for that same time frame, so the local traffic coming in can get out. And then once it closes down after noon time, this will become, the blocked off area for the primary piece of the Pumpkin Fest. It does also go into some Veterans Square, because that's where the, we'll call it the tower, the pumpkin display is going to be. And so this also includes that area. This has been reviewed by DPW, Police and Fire. And Carmen Gifford from the Chamber has been working with us to try to come up with, how we can make this all work and continue to keep the businesses, at least over here, working for that morning. She has, in those conversations, she has talked to the business owners in the area, and worked with them, during this as well. So it is a big chunk of the area being shut down, but the event needs its setup time, to be able to do it both on Friday and Saturday night. And so that's what's presented in front of you tonight.
Any questions for the city manager before we move on to a motion here? Go ahead, Councilor Bogert.
By the drawing, just the places in yellow is what's gonna be closed down, so by looking at this, North Main Street's gonna stay open all the way through town?
Yes. Yes.
What's the red dotted line?
I think that's the canal. That's the river.
Oh, okay.
Canal.
We're gonna float pumpkins down the canal?
It's
I
underground.
don't think, is it underground there?
So
See who comes out first on the
There are
other
no-
end.
No further questions. Right now, I'd be looking for, you have a question? Right now, I'd be looking at a motion to move to approve temporary traffic order 2023-16 for the 2023 New Hampshire Pumpkin Festival as presented. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to item number 21B, acceptance of funds from the Community Action Program for Belknap, Merrimack counties in the amount of $4,262. Per City Council Resolution 2019-24 and RSA 31:95-B, acceptance and expenditure of unanticipated funds in amounts less than $10,000 made available during the fiscal year require approval of the City Council. The city is requesting acceptance of this $4,262 from Community Action from CAP, Belknap, Merrimack CAP program. The funds will be used for the purpose of expanding the sanitation capabilities for the unhoused. Kirk, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I just think that this is another sign of some of our partners within the community. We saw this, we had a vote last week for accepting some money through the Mayor's Housing Task Force, and this is again, so we can do, we continue to do some work and try to work this problem along and try to make a difference. And so it's nice to see these agencies reaching out for the support.
Thank you. So right now, I'll be looking for a motion to move to accept the amount of $4,262 from the Belknap Merrimack CAP program as presented. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Bogert. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Item number 21C, Resolution 2023-28, relative to acceptance of the Invest NH Municipal Per Unit Program grant in the amount of $810,000. The city has been awarded a grant in the amount of $810,000 from the New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs Invest NH Municipal Per Unit Program. The grant funds are in relation to the approvals of the Village at Province Street, 244 Province Street project. City Manager Beatty will provide further details and information.
So that project that we've talked about in the past, it's the 3 total of 90-unit project, affordable housing. They currently have their building permit, which is why we were able to move forward with this. They're starting some site work. The one issue we're still running into, and if you remember, is that they do need their second exit, which is, we are still continuously working on that. It was not forgotten. It's been worked on quite frequently. But we did find them an alternative that they can at least start the project with and move forward with. So that at least is a good position to be in. This is that per unit program. As you remember, we did this on Blueberry Lane as well and received this money. And so.
There are no matching funds required.
There are
from
no
the city in
matching
this.
funds and no.
How many units?
This is gonna be 90. We're eligible for 81 of them, just the way that, because they have to be listed as, affordable workforce housing and keep it in that. So it's 90 total units.
Thank you. So right now, we'll be looking to schedule a public hearing in relation to the acceptance of the grant award. We have a series of 3 motions. First one is looking for a motion to move to waive a reading of Resolution 2023-28 relative to acceptance of Invest NH Municipal Per Unit Program grant in the amount of $810,000, made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. That's 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Next, looking for a motion to move a first reading of Resolution 2023-28 relative to acceptance of Invest NH Municipal Per Unit Program grant in the amount of $810,000. So made by Councilor Haynes, seconded by Councilor Felch. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. And finally, looking to move to schedule a public hearing on October 23rd, 2023, during the regular city council meeting to gather public input prior to any action being taken. So made by Councilor Susie, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please, if you're in favor, raise your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kirk. Item number 21D, Resolution 2023-29 relative to a proposed boundary line adjustment between Pemmico Realty Holdings LLC and the City of Laconia. I believe we've been briefed on this, all of us counselors at some point, I think. I don't know about you, Counselor Boger, but we're going to have Kirk walk us through this just a little bit right now so you can get an overview.
So and we do have the owners in-house with us then if we have any questions. The Pemmico Building, Main Street where Wayfair is, was recently purchased. The property itself is going to have upstairs, if you remember, it had the old garden theater that was in there. There was, it now will have an architectural firm in there, which is the owner's occupied property. 3 smaller apartments in there, and then also have the opportunity to open up to potential future investment for another partner to move in there to where the theater piece is. So a lot of growth in the building, a lot of excitement in there. One of the pieces that they need to do is they need to put an elevator in. So the elevator, as proposed right now, is going to, if you face the building, it's going, the proposal is to go on the right-hand side of the building. And they may have a, do you have a map?
Do you have a copy
Yeah,
of that?
they
Maybe we
have,
can share
they have a
with
map as well they could
particularly
show.
Councilor Bogert, since he's not familiar with it, just get a.
It will go on the right-hand side of the building, which is going to affect the sidewalk that currently is there. So by doing so, this is where our boundary line adjustment need to be, because currently the boundary line is right on the right-hand side of the building. They pretty much sit right on it. By moving that out, the proposal that stands right now is going to be to close off one entrance to the Main Street entrance to the parking lot. So we only have one, and everything else would go out the other way and come around Pleasant Street if you were exiting. There is a gain of, I believe, we worked out 5 parking spots, I think is what the number was, because we added some parking spots on Main Street as well. So this is what the boundary line adjustment, not only they need, but then how we will see a change to what the city has as well. So this is what we're looking to do, what they're looking to do, and they've asked us to do. This is their plans that they've drawn up to do that, where this is city property that we're doing, that we're adjusting with a private entity. This goes through you, public hearing, to be approved to go ahead and do this.
Thank you, Kirk. This is Sonia Mashashik, who is one of the owners of the building, along with Jared Gamet in the back there, and valued members of our community and the work that they've done right along. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but this is I think, an exciting project, and I think an opportunity for, public-private partnership of sorts here to assist them and continue to develop a robust economy on Main Street. Go right ahead.
Just, could you repeat the parking space gain for us?
Well, right now, it's 87 to 93. That is as it stands right now. If there has to be any little tweaks, but that's what we're looking at, right around the net gain of the 4 to 6 net gain.
We always want more parking downtown.
Counselor Susie, go right ahead.
Just one question. Along the side of the elevator, is that gonna be like a walkway? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Any questions, Counselor Bogart, on this? Go right ahead.
And I assume that y'all gonna fix the sidewalk so that and make all the concrete adjustments for the exit and everything else, and, okay.
All right. No, there are no other questions, and thank you very much, Sonia and Jared. We can move to the motions right now, and go right ahead. Sure, sure. Sonia, are you available? One more question, apparently.
This was more towards the city manager. Is this just a non-financial exchange here where
Yeah,
make a boundary line adjustment?
there'll be it's not planned as financial. It'll change their tax, by that little piece there, but,
Okay.
yep.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, so we have a series of 3 motions here. The first is motion to move to waive a reading of Resolution 2023-29 in its entirety and to read by title only, so made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Next, looking for a motion to move a first reading of Resolution 2023-29 relative to a proposed boundary line adjustment between Pemmico Realty Holdings LLC and the City of Laconia. So made by Counselor Bogart, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Finally, we're looking to move to schedule a public hearing on October 23rd, 2023 during the regular city council meeting regarding Resolution 2023-29 relative to a proposed boundary line adjustment between Pemmico Realty Holdings LLC and the City of Laconia and declaration of a portion of the city's property at tax map 432-186-5 as surplus. So made by Counselor Bogart, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. So we'll see you on the 23rd. Thank you. Item number 21E, discussion relative to providing funds to help build a kitchen for Laconia Senior Center. Counselor Cheney, would you like to lead this discussion, at least initially here?
Yes, sir. I think this is a brilliant opportunity for this council to show support for our seniors. I would tell you that the manager and I have been there. They work very hard, and a kitchen, other than what they have right now, would be a big improvement for the senior center. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm shocked at how many people show up at the senior center. It's quite a crew.
Yeah, it was full the last few
And-
times we've been
and
there.
They're trying very hard, but they need newer equipment and I think space for the equipment too, isn't it?
They're gonna need space pretty
Yeah.
soon, too.
I strongly support this, Mr. Mayor.
And so,
If
would it be possible, I'm just thinking about how, I think the more information is better in this instance. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to have the director there come before us and talk about the plans and the cost associated with it and what the funding looks like and what the specific ask of the city is, and then, of course, what we can afford and where it's coming from. It seems like logical next steps, because I certainly think it's a valuable endeavor.
I would only ask that we show some support for this tonight. depending on what we're advised by the director of the, but in other words, I'd like them to know, we want to help, but we need to know, as you have said, and so a little show of support at this point to encourage them, and, because they got some work to do, they really do.
Sure, and I think we were there on St. Patrick's Day and had lunch and had a nice
Oh,
tour,
okay.
and
Yep.
remarkable how many meals they push out in the course of a week there, and how many people they serve, and, you know, it's also the, you know, loneliness, particularly with our senior citizens and our homebound folks, you know,
Yep.
that's a big issue. So this is an opportunity not only to have a nourishing meal, but certainly to have some human-to-human contact, whether they
Yep.
come down here to Main Street or someone comes to their house with the Meals on Wheels
Yeah,
program.
I think the city manager last meeting, when this first came up, gave some idea with the funding on how,
Yeah, well, I put this in as discussion just for these purposes right here, so you can identify a dollar figure if you wanted, then we could bring that back, or if you wanna see her come forward and have a meeting, that's fine as well. We do have some areas that, you know, that I'm comfortable if we need to take some money up, depending on the amount, so that's really your side first.
Thank you, Councilor Lippman.
I support the mayor's suggestion, having them come in and lay out their plan, and also overheard that maybe they're gonna run out of space, and maybe, you know,
Hear about all of that.
a different plan might make sense. The other thing too, I think it'd be important to explain, how Laconia Senior Center is connected to the city, because it's different than others, right, in terms of the relationship here.
the state pays the rent for the building, I believe, was when I remember talking to Carol Murray, okay, before she was one of the leaders of that, and I was helping her out with some things she asked me for too, because that's where when they were moving from Canal Street, they were moving from, Canal Street and the old Paris Pizza area to that building. And, it was quite an undertaking, but they were able to pull it off, so there is something tie there to the state. That's all I can tell you, that's all.
Well, let's.
I'll reach out and have her come
reach
in
out
for a
and put it on the
presentation
agenda and
with these questions, and, yeah, that's fine.
Certainly, I think it's fair to say, with unanimity, there is support here from the council to find a way to be supportive for this important program. So, thank you, Councilor Cheney, for bringing that to our attention. Moving on to unfinished business, agenda item number 22, 20A, Councilor Felch has requested an update and discussion regarding current regulations governing fireworks in the city of Laconia as compared to other New Hampshire communities. Proposed ordinance incorporates the changes that have been discussed at the September 25th, 2023 City Council meeting. A motion was approved to schedule a public hearing. That hearing was held earlier this evening, and no one spoke, unfortunately. What's your preference on this, councilors? Everybody look to,
We went through the ordinance and governance committee, okay, before this was put together. With the help of the city manager and everybody else like this. And we also heard from a couple of different people from, one of our state legislatures who's present was asked a couple of questions, and we cleared that up. And if he has any more, I hope he would come forward earlier, but I think we satisfied
I
that,
think he's satisfied.
right? I wasn't here, I was late. But I would like to move ahead and pass this ordinance,
Okay,
okay?
go right ahead, Councilor Lippman.
Just a question, not objecting to the work and appreciating the work that was done. It just as a matter of technical on 150-1, the RSA term and the prohibition, do we know that is permissible within our authority to?
The 150-1 is already, it's the only thing that's currently in our fireworks ordinance. It's as is. That was just, this continued on.
We're not changing any RSA's.
I just wanted to make sure that was permissible within the
was.
RSA to do.
Exactly.
And this is, everywhere in the state uses that same one for the sale of consumer fireworks, so, and that was the only thing that was in our current fireworks ordinance.
Okay, so, What we have before us now is a series of three motions. The first one is to move, a motion to move to waive a reading of ordinance 2023-150-2 and 150-3 in its entirety and to read by title only. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please raise your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Next, looking for a motion to move a second reading of ordinance 2023-15-2 and 150-3 relative to fireworks. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Finally, on this matter, looking for a motion to move to approve ordinance 2023-150-2 and 150-3 relative to fireworks as presented. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Bogart. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Next, we're moving on to item number 22B. Ordinance 2023-59-12, amending Chapter 59 Parks and Recreation Commission, adding a new section, 59-12, Parks and Recreation Commission Rules and Regulations. Kirk, would you lead us through this before we get to any vote?
Yep, so the Parks and Rec Director went to the commission, and recommended that they take some of their park rules and, convert them into ordinances, for the ability to be able to have the police department enforce the rules, which they can't do with just park rules. In looking at their park rules, they made a determination that they were going to pick the ones that they felt was most appropriate and have those move forward first, and that's what was done. So these were approved by the Parks Commission, and then is now in front of you for acceptance into ordinance form.
Any questions of the city manager on what's presented? Counselor Cheney.
I just wondered if I don't see any penalty for violation of these. Are they covered somewhere else in the ordinance? I mean, I don't know how the police department enforces something they can't.
I may have to bring up that, Chapter 59, take a look at it and see if there's a penalty provision already in it. Counselor Lippman.
I guess I'm troubled a little bit by the, being able to have more than one bicycle as being something that we need the police to deal with.
I think they have a reason for that, Henry.
I'd like to know what it is,
Well,
because,
yeah,
like,
that's fair
if a father brings 2 bicycles down for the 2 kids, is he in violation of that? I mean, I'm not sure what they're trying to get to here.
I think what they're trying, if I may, Mr. Mayor,
Go right ahead, Counselor Susie, yeah.
I think what they're trying to get to, and I've been a victim of this many years ago, when your bike gets taken by somebody else, it's not the owner, you might say, and collecting, they've got his bike and plus another bike you just grabbed. I think that's what they're trying to look at.
I
They
think
want to
they-
be able
Yeah,
to
but
discuss that.
that's different. That's
Yeah.
theft. That's a theft right there.
And,
right?
and that can be enforced.
That can be enforced, yeah. I mean, whether it's,
But I do think, I do think this needs to be explained a little better before we vote to improve it.
Also, A is, if I'm running for a ball in the field and my knee hits the ground and I dig up some turf, am I gonna be arrested? I mean, I just don't think these are written clearly enough to
I don't
be
think this is
workable.
ready for prime time, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and they
Motion
might,
to table made by Counselor Susie. Is there a second?
yes.
Counselor Cheney, this is not debatable. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. Was that a roll call? Do you have the roll call? 6 votes in the affirmative. This item is tabled.
I'm not against them having support what they're doing, whether they think it needs to
If
be.
they just add the word intentional damage.
It's gotta be something more. It can't be
Yeah.
overly broad
Yes,
and,
I
and,
agree.
and
I think that might be covered by another ordinance, too.
If you pick a dandelion.
smart defense attorney will,
Well, I was gonna say,
Shoot
it might
that
have to
down.
go to
They
legal
don't
and
even have to be smart sometimes.
most aren't, are they, Counselor?
Well, press me.
Okay. Item number 22C, ownership and maintenance of Pickerel Pond Road. This item is currently on the table.
Make a motion to take it off the table?
Is there a second to take it off
I'll
the table?
second.
Seconded by Counselor Haynes. All those in favor of the item coming off the table? That's 5 votes in the affirmative. The item is now off the table and open for discussion. Counselor Lippman, I heard you inhaling like you were going to speak.
No,
so-
go ahead.
Let Council Susie go first.
Go right ahead.
Well, we just want to make sure what we're talking about here is to either accept the road as is, or whatever the improvements that would need to be done. So it becomes
Let's move on and accept as is,
I agree, I'll second that if that's the motion.
The motion is to accept Pickerel Pond Road as is, and it becomes a city road. Motion made by Counselor Lippman, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? I think the only discussion we should make clear right now, just to make clear to the residents of Pickerel Pond Road, simply that we've now made it a public road and the city takes responsibility for the road going forward. Doesn't necessarily mean that road construction or rehabilitation will commence immediately. I think what it does is it makes it eligible to be put in queue for the maintenance of roads and rehabilitation of roads within the city. So we just want to make sure our expectations are set accordingly, and this is the first big step to get it there, though. Okay,
Correct. I agree.
am I correct on that, Kirk?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes, and the record will continue to reflect that Counselor Susie recused himself for the vote. Counselor Cheney, sorry. Item number 22D. It's a proposal to increase transfer station fees due to increase in disposal costs. Kirk, could you lead us through that a little bit?
Sure, and we have Public Works Director Anderson here with us as well. So we're looking at we've been notified that we'll have increasing fees with the transfer station. And so what we're looking to do in this, to kind of break down this whole packet kind of simply, is how do we want to address those increased fees moving forward? We can increase now, we could have a multiplier factored in, so we can, each time they move the numbers up, we move up with it accordingly. There's a couple different options in here to talk about. We're just looking to make sure that as our prices or our fees go up, that our prices are going up congruently with that, so for offsetting our.
Mr. Mayor? Oh, okay.
Counselor Bogert?
Under option 3,
Do we have to take this off the table?
Yeah, I
yeah.
was gonna make a motion.
I make a motion to take it off the table.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Seconded by Counselor Haynes. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your 6 votes in the affirmative. The item is now off the table.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I
Right ahead.
continue?
Sure,
Thank
sure.
you. Under option 3, it's broken up to where we have the waste management cost, and we know that's gonna vary year to year. And then we have our overhead cost. The way I understood this, the only thing it would change in this thing would be the waste management cost, and your overhead cost would remain the same year to year. And my curiosity is our overhead costs are gonna increase year to year also? And would it not be wise that if we do choose option 3, that knowingly the waste management cost is gonna increase? That was the option 3 part. But we also have to review the overhead cost at these same times, because those can increase, and then we would still be stuck with the same overhead cost.
This was basically an example to get the idea behind it. If that's the way you want to go, number 3 is the will of the council, then we'll put together the final package to come to you. So that was the thought process.
Okay.
Yeah, Counselor Lippman, go right ahead.
I just, from our experience in other areas over the years and decades, setting a fee and forgetting it has been a problem for us in a number of different areas. So, I mean, I think the point by Counselor Bogut to take a look at the overhead and continually to adjust our fees and look at them on an annual basis, given the volatility in this space too, I think would be the way to be going.
Which, I mean, you would know better, but as my understanding is that's how we've been doing it anyhow. That's why this keeps seemingly comes up each fall, that we look at the new numbers and make the adjustments.
I don't know that I can recall that has happened
I don't
in front of the council. I don't have a recollection of that coming here.
I don't recall it either. I could have forgotten it.
Changing fees?
We
No,
did-
changing fees has come from,
right.
these specific fees
Right.
have not.
So, I'm still a little confused by everything that I have in front of me, quite frankly. But I think that, I'd suggest the overarching principle here is that we need to charge the public that use a transfer station a fee that covers the costs associated with tipping and personnel. I mean, I don't think we should be, we shouldn't be subsidizing this. This is just, we should just be moving things accordingly, quite frankly, and not always trying to play catch-up. I mean, I think we should be a little more proactive and put something in place, even if it's for a 3-year period going forward. And we should be able to reconcile at the end of each year to make sure that what we've charged is pretty close to what has been the city has been charged. So, and I think it has to, I think Councilor Bogert is absolutely correct. It's got to include personnel costs associated with running the transfer station, not just tipping fees. So,
Not just direct salaries, the whole.
it's a whole thing.
Fully loaded cost.
Compensation package.
Yeah, well, it's compensation package, but it's also any, what are the soft costs up there as well, your variable costs as far as electricity that's used and trucks, I'm not sure. I mean, I'd like to see it all to say, okay, how do we break that down and offset it with the revenue that's coming in? So we don't subsidize it, I don't think.
I don't think we're charging enough.
Based on what I dropped off there yesterday and how much I was charged, we are not charging enough. It's a pretty good deal, quite frankly. So, I'm not looking to punish our residents, I don't think anyone up here is, but on the other hand, I think we have to do something that is, makes good sense and allows, so, what's the next step? Can we come back with a package of proposals here as to
Yeah, I
all
think,
everything that we're putting into our cost structure, and then what's our revenue structure look like?
I think we have most of those numbers already. We'll put it together in a little bit neater package and come forward.
Okay.
All right, so I don't,
Move to table again then, to the next meeting?
is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Cheney?
Actually, all we just need is, you selected option 3, correct? That's the one you want us to proceed with.
No, I don't think we said
wanna
that.
We want to see a full, excuse me,
Get
Mr.
numbers.
Mayor,
Go right ahead, yeah, of course.
a full cost,
Yes,
a
but.
loaded
but-
cost is what I
but-
would be told,
But the
okay?
piece we're looking at, just to make sure I'm not losing, is we're looking at the option of having a set fee plus the overhead.
Right.
So we know what, we know what they're charging us, plus we gotta figure out what we need to cover our costs.
Yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
All
option
of
we're
our
looking at.
costs.
Yeah, absolutely, that's on
okay.
top of it.
All of our costs.
Absolutely,
Yep.
yes.
I just wanna make sure that's,
So there's a motion to table this from Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Bogert, is that right?
Yes.
Non-debatable, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, the item is tabled, and we'll look forward to that information coming forward. Thank you. Item number 22E. Ordinance 2023-194-1 and 194-8, proposal to fine transfer station customers who leave without paying associated fees. They're the worst. Counselor Littman.
I object to calling them customers. People who are stealing from us are not customers, okay? And I also,
I agree with that.
I also,
It's a criminal enterprise.
Mr. Mayor, I also believe this is on the table.
This is on the table?
yeah,
Okay, so in order,
I would leave it on the table. That'd be my motions.
would anyone be so inclined as to take it off the table for any further discussion? Counselor Bogert, is there a second? Oh, I thought you were gonna get shut out. Counselor Felch, all those in favor of coming off the table, please indicate by raising your hands. All opposed, 4-2, it stays on the table. With no further business before the city council this evening, I'd like to adjourn us in a very timely 8:13 PM. Thank you all.